wanted to be a poet.
I didn't know that.
Even worse. Yeah, right. I mean, but I wasn't good enough. You have to really be, you really have to know your words really well to be a poet. So I thought, well, a really good writer is a poet. A maybe not as good writer is a short story writer. And maybe I'm not that good. When somebody who's a little bit sloppy and needs a little bit more time and is not a poet and not a short story writer, maybe they could be a novelist. So I sort of backed into being a novelist because I thought, well, if I make a lot of mistakes, I have more room to cover them up than you do in a poem or a short story.
It's something of a cliche that great novelists have come from troubled families, and there are troubled families in your books, but I don't get the feeling that you came from such a traumatic family. Did you?
Well, I suppose all families are dysfunctional.
Some are quite dysfunctional.
Right. No, I mean, to me, I think I became a writer because I was fated to be. The first person who really acknowledged to me that this was a possible career was a professor I had at Oswego State at the beginning of my second year, who taught a course. He was a retired Air Force colonel, and he taught a course called The Nature of Nonfiction. He was a journalist. He had written a biography of Amelia Earhart, and the first assignment was to write an autobiographical essay. So I went off to my dorm room and I wrote an autobiographical essay. That is, I used the first person, but I made up everything that happened. None of it had happened to me or to anybody I knew. It was a great story, but it was totally made up.
Why? Why didn't you just tell a real story?
I had nothing to say. The journalism is so limiting. It wouldn't have been such a shapely story, and it'd have such a nice, resounding ending if it had been based on anything that actually happened. And I brought it into the class, and this was back in the dark age when he would use overhead projectors to show our work so that you'd be sitting in essentially a theater, a lecture hall, with your sentences on a screen behind this guy, and he would take his little wax pencil and go over and curse you out for every comma splice and every misplaced modifier and the sentence that was too short or too long, and why circle the word, why this word, why not? He was an Air Force colonel. So he did that to my little essay, and then at the end of it he said, "McDermott, I want to see you after class." So I thought, nature of nonfiction, right? And he looked up at me and said, "I got bad news for you, kid. You're a writer, and you'll never shake it. It's a monkey on your back."
That was nice.